All right, Travis, we are live on video. Stand by for audio. All right. Good day and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Live the Fuel podcast show. So this recording session is being dedicated once again to one of our popular returning co-hosts here in 2018. This gentleman loves talking about healthy lifestyle. We've talked about multiple different forms of healthy lifestyle. The last two episodes, most recently that aired in June and July of 2018, were around the topic of minimalism. But I think today, kind of a stem off of minimalism, is I think we might be talking a little bit about burnout. That's right, people, burnout. It's manifests in so many different ways. So without further ado, I want to dig into this with him. Welcome back to the show, Travis Roznos of The Drop. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Scott. I'm glad to be back.
Love the new headset. It's
yes.
it's very. I almost feel like I should have gotten you like a bright white one or something. Just
I would have been down for that. Yeah, for those watching.
I was looking at headsets and there's like fancy shiny white ones too. Actually nowadays you could probably get any color you really want. Now that I think about it, but anyway.
Yeah, got this from a swagged out, sharp gentleman from on the East Coast.
Yes, I know. It's funny. Sometimes he's scruffy. Sometimes he's well shaven.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the gift, Scott. Thank you.
And you finally got it to work. So this is our first. This is our maiden voyage with the new sound canceling headset.
You even helped me with that too, man. You got me covered. So.
It's all right. Well, you got to give to get, right? I think that's another life lesson. We'll toss that in real quick before we get into burnouts. Ladies and gentlemen, give to get, okay? If you give more than you receive, I truly believe the universe will provide. That's something I started learning before even hardcore getting into personal and professional development. Would you agree with that?
I think that's all we need to learn.
Oh.
So just turn off the mic right now.
Well, yes, but here's my segue then. There's a point where maybe you're trying to give too much to get too much. And one of the potential side effects of that is burning out, because I've been guilty of that. So that's why I was excited when we kind of hopped on the mics today before we hit record and you started kind of hitting on this. I was already firing a few things off in my head. It is really easy, I think, to hit that threshold of, oh my God, am I about to burn out? Or there's that threshold of, you don't even know you're about to burn out. I think you and I joked around about this in the last episode where we were trying to lock down recording times. You were supporting this big, I think it was a men's event, right? It was a men's getaway, I don't know, full immersion growth event that you were helping support. And then, I don't know, you just came across very overwhelmed. I wouldn't say burned out, but definitely like, oh my God, there's a lot going on. I remember messaging you back saying, listen, dude, like healthy lifestyle is everything. Look at the schedule. I never want to force you into this. You being a guest co-host on a regular basis is to help you grow your brand, but also give back to our listeners. And I would never want something like this to potentially impact that burnout factor. So yeah. So why do you want to talk about that today? Why do our listeners need to hear about burnout?
I'm so excited for this because I think this is perfect. I mean, it is perfect because, your personality is, it's live the fuel, man. It's just like getting after life and
sometimes to a fault.
Well, and it's so my story is burnout from corporate culture. Like, to be perfectly honest, like this whole conversation is the relationship to stress. Right? Like there's good stress and there's bad stress. There's studies that show like we need some form of stress to keep us motivated. And that's also what keeps us productive and moving the ball forward. Like, we don't have a culture where we all just like sit down and, drink margaritas on the beach, right? There's stress that's good that helps us move the ball forward.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, what a lot of people aren't aware of is the long, slow dripping process though. And the symptoms that actually come from.
So are you hinting at the buildup? Like
so
slow
burnout is basically a clinically researched and studied form of, let's call it illness.
Okay.
Stages that run the gamut from just working hard and a part of our personality that wants to achieve and grow and produce, etc., all the way to physical burnout, where you hear the Ariana Huffington of the world who passes out and, gets stitches in her forehead.
Yeah. Or we've talked about,
right? So,
like adrenal fatigue is,
yeah, that's a physical fatigue. So
that's a manifestation.
There are stages in between. Essentially, there's 12 stages. We're not going to go into every single stage, but to sum it up, it ranges from when you start to neglect your needs. So, for example, when I said, "Hey, I'm starting to really feel it." Now, this is this year. Like 3 years ago, when I was getting on a plane every week and grinding, and I took on the mentality that our culture really promotes, right? The Kobe Bryants, the Gary V's of the world, the Rock, right? The hustle to get up at 4 a.m. and like burn the oil until it's gone. Yeah. I would say yes.
Midnight oil.
Yeah. So there's the mentality and the mindset of go, go, go. And to me, in my experience, in summing up these stages and all the research that I've done in it, is we start to actually neglect what our body tells us, and that's disembodiment. So you're really ignoring what your body tells you. Athletes come up, right? We get that. Like, I was an athlete, I played through injuries. So there's certain personalities and there's certain people that are prone to ignoring signs of actually taking care of ourselves. So me rescheduling on you was, in the flavor of what we're talking about, was actually a really big win for me, because I was like paying attention to like, okay, I actually, coming back from international travel, coming back from multiple weekends of assisting events, like being in front of 60 people where it's emotional, there's all this stuff going on. Like,
that's sensory overload. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I can't do this interview. I shouldn't, because it's not going to serve the audience, and it's not going to serve me. So it's like me honoring my needs. So it's a little bit of a personal anecdote. It's a little bit of burnout is impacting any entrepreneur. Any physicians are some of the most burnt out professionals in our culture, working up to 60 hours a week.
Especially the modern day now.
Yeah.
Because they literally are an assembly line. Even the insurance companies have dictated this. You're not supposed to spend more like 10 minutes with a patient or something like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. There's, and to keep things relevant for your audience, the millennial generation is the most researched and let's call it like hands are raising. They're the most burnt out generation in our culture. And that's, for a variety of reasons. They come out of college and the job market's more competitive than it's ever been.
The average millennial's got 6 figures in college debt.
There's a lot of perceived pressure. I think the college debt is a great point. Like, that's
pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and there's survival instincts that kick in. And so the early stages of this, and younger people have this heroic, like, I'm untouchable. And to a certain extent they are. Like, we can go and go and go.
Even my generation's guilty of that, dude. I'm Gen X. It's like, dude, I got to prove myself. You joked around about me being a hard charger. Like, yeah, I'm guilty of it, dude. I love doing that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important that I stay aware of, and I'm not always great at it. So that's why I'm glad we're talking about this today, because there's the awareness piece. That trickle effect you were talking about. Like, am I monitoring the trickling, the build?
Yeah. Places that people will suffer initially are their sleep will start to deteriorate, which I've experienced 100% over time. You get less deep sleep.
There goes your rest and recovery cycle.
Yeah. We are overly caffeinated as a culture, which that's another, we drink coffee too early. We drink coffee like right when we get up a lot, which that's not good. So there's a lot of contributing factors, but I think some of the biggest points are that people don't take assessment to burnout, because it's like, well, why should I, right? Like, if I'm feeling good, I'm feeling productive, like, I'm going to get it while I can, while I'm young and all that. But the numbers show that the self-awareness goes out the window, and therefore the lens is altered. And that's the dangerous part. where it's over time then where a 28-year-old, 29-year-old, like that's what I experienced. Like at 28, realizing it was a slow unraveling process, but I thought it was like no big deal. Like it was 12 hours in front of a computer every day.
This
Well,
is
just
what's
like
supposed
everybody
to be
else.
happening, right?
This is
Right.
what it is. This
Yeah.
is what the culture is. This
That's
is
why
what
you and
we're
I clicked, dude, because I went through the same shit in my 20s. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm a hard charging. I'm working my way up in the corporate world. So everybody's like, oh, yeah, 50, 60-hour a week is
Yeah.
normal.
Right. Right.
Even though I knew ways to optimize and improve my work week. But then I felt guilty. I was made to feel guilty because I wasn't staying as long as the other management, right? Like everybody's working late into the night and crap. And I'm like,
yeah.
oh, so I'm supposed to be here for this. I'm like, no, deep down, I thought it didn't seem right, but it's the culture.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are the influences, right? And it's, if you're listening to this, everybody sort of has some relationship to burnout. Cause again, this is a conversation on a spectrum in your relationship to stress. But what I experienced really was withdrawal from social. Like I got really isolated there. As you go down the spectrum, it starts to get a little darker, all the way down to depression and anxiety and all that stuff, where I experienced some of it. Some people have it worse, where they faint, they have a more physical response to like overwhelming burnout syndrome. Now that's the extreme part, but the consequences in those middle stages are the neglecting or denial of that there are issues. So it's this non-awareness and neglecting based on the personality,
right?
Isolation, not nurturing your social interpersonal relationships with friends and stuff like that. Like I put dating on the back burner, and like we all do this. Like there are
the same thing. I did the same thing.
Right. So, and I also
it was a hero complex. It was justified my hero complex.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
I don't have time to date. I don't have time.
Absolutely. I really like going such down the rabbit hole of this burnout, like the research and all this stuff. I kind of think the counter response to what people will call Peter Pan syndrome of not wanting to grow up is, quite honestly, I just think it's workaholics working so much that they're malnourished in a sense to be able to cultivate or want to have those relationships.
That's a good point. Never thought about it. I mean,
that was mine. It's not that I like, I'm not prepared or grown up for those relationships at 26, blah, blah, blah. I just didn't have the time. I was working so much.
Well, and it's like, because again, we were young. And this is why I'm loving this topic, because, I'm Gen X, you're millennial. We're talking about the same stuff. Like we might have went through it at a different time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be different. And I went through the same crap. Like I justified my single life. I just didn't. Romance was never a priority. We talked about this, I think, back when I first had you on the show.
Yeah.
Because I studied psychology. We talked about, depending on who's teaching the subject, I remember my professor teaching me this. He's like, Scott, picture your life in 5 to 6 primary domains, right? Now, these domains are different for everybody, but on average, people have, education or, thought, for example, your mental health. You have your relationships, your friendships, things of that nature, your family. You have your career, right? Your professional growth, your income, etc. Your fourth will be, for example, health, fitness, right? Taking care of yourself, exercise, etc. A fifth one could be then the heart, the romantic side, because that's not the same as your friendships and those other, standardized relationships. And then if you want to throw a sixth one on, you can go spirituality, religion, faith, whatever it may be, belief in the universe. I don't care. So anyway, the whole point was, he's like, Scott, draw a zero axis. And he's like, now rank those 5 to 6 domains: above 0, below 0, and extremes from like 1 to 5. And he's like, what most people find when they're in a very, very stressed state, once you go, let's say you're going out of just 5, not the 6. We'll throw spirituality out for now. Out of those 5, he's like, if you got 3 of those domains below the 0 axis, you're stressed. He's like, it's really hard to find that balance. Very often and throughout life, he's like, some of these domains will rise up higher, some will drop lower, especially when you're in school, coming out of school, building the career, finding your place in this world. It's a roller coaster ride. And he's like, most people aren't aware of it, like you're talking about. We're just kind of going through the motions because that's what everybody else is doing.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad we could connect on this. And I think we painted a good picture of it's kind of disguised. There's a cultural thing, and There's a personal awareness sometimes that's lacked.
Mm-hmm.
General assumption, is to really output consistently in our culture. So this we know. And I really, there's another stage that I really wanted to bring up too, where I experienced it. I've had friends that have kind of given answers to fears around complacency. And to me, it's kind of disguised as apathy. So there's a stage of depersonalization that occurs. And this is where it gets really tricky because, again, we weave in and out of what we think are standard cycles of life.
Okay.
Depersonalization it's not powerlessness, but it becomes that we become like whatever we're going to output isn't quite good enough. So the stories get told.
Like self-defeating?
There's a cynicism that occurs because we're grinding through, and we might get some reward. There's all kinds of rewards psychologically and financially and all this stuff that occurs. Mm-hmm. But if there's even a little bit of our values that are off from what we might expect from the amount of work we put in, or if the amount of recognition isn't there at our employer, entrepreneurs might struggle a lot more, right? Because if we're on an island doing it on our own, there's no one to waving a flag,
Which is why mastermind groups and communities are so important, right?
Yeah. So the depersonalization starts to settle in, and there's a little of that apathy that kind of sneaks its way in. And that, to me, because I have a lot of the background of, as a Wim Hof method instructor, like the connection to the body knows a lot more than the mind. When I say no more, it's emotions give us a lot of feedback, and we're not really tied to that feedback all the time. And it's my understanding is we become a lot more disembodied as the stages move on. The danger there is then we operate even more from our head. We operate more from the energy moving through thought. And that's more ego, and that's more, it's just disembodied experience, right? And because a depressed person is not connected to their heart and what their body says. It is
right, they're stuck in their head.
It is a mind attached spiral. So to me, it's where the energy is. And
did you and I ever talk about? You joked around how I'm a hard charger. I think it's important to pause on this point you just made here. Did you and I ever talk about my short bout with depression?
I'm not recalling that specifically
because I bring it up now. I love podcasting because I just don't care about what I bring up anymore. And I think I might have let it slip once or twice in the show, but like everybody's like, "Oh, you're Mr. High Energy, Crazy Adrenaline." I'm like, "Yeah, but dude, we all have a weird lifestyle, right? And we've all gone through a bunch of shit." And that corporate day life, when I finally did get involved with somebody, it happened to be somebody that worked in the same building that I did and was also my next door neighbor. And I never really opened my heart up before. And it wasn't that open, but it was open enough to get affected by it. And then we broke up. So that's okay. I still see this person where I live and where I work. It was god awful. And I could not clear my head. So I was going through a period of it was short, but depression. Like it was like 3 to 6 months. I know people out here hearing this right now, like, oh my God, that's nothing. But it was still something, and I didn't know what was going on. And I tried going to talk to a professional, and then I listened to them and tried the stupid pharmaceuticals, which I absolutely hated because it's like, as soon as I put them in my body, I was like, this isn't right. It doesn't feel right. I'm like, how could people live in this fog? And and I got to work and I resolved it. But the point is, I think it's important to share this. Like I was hard charging, building the corporate life, thinking this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm living in this, keeping up with the Joneses lifestyle, got this nice high-end loft apartment. I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it just all fell apart just from one dating process.
No.
I figured that's important to bring it up because I thought I had my act together and everything fell apart.
Yeah. I would say I've been in depression for sure. It gets foggy again on exactly what it is, but like I've certainly have had an in and out of that.
Yeah. And did you have to try the drugs like I tried? Because their whole point was, Scott, you don't need to be on these forever. It's just to restart that serotonin production because serotonin levels in their brain is very, very crucial. That triggers that synaptic happiness. Right? But Yeah.
To be honest, I think, I started it was 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
I started to go into like mentorship circles and groups and started to like really
Right when that was happening.
hash out emotions. I think I was pretty much in depression at that point where
Okay.
it was right on the timing there where I had some nice experiences with, older individuals that I looked up to and
Mentors.
I kind of started to like navigate the boat, slowly but surely in the upper right quadrant,
Yeah.
and so I think the timing was really good. I think if I wouldn't have sought that out, it could have gotten even more
See, I didn't have that.
darker.
I wasn't thinking like that. So that kudos, because I think that's a great lesson for comparison is that I was trying to muscle my way through it. I wasn't looking for help. I didn't understand mentorship circles and mastermind groups back then. I mean, I was probably 20, 26, 27. This probably would have been around the, early to mid 2000s. I was trying to find myself. I mean, it got so bad that I literally resigned from the company just to get the hell away from it. And then I actually considered, before I resigned from the company, I considered relocating to the headquarters in Seattle. I'm like, great, I don't have to be around her at my home or my office. I'm just going to move across the country. And then I, pulled my head out of my ass. It's like, really? That's why you're going to move across the entire country? You're going to choose the second most stressful thing you could do in your life? Like there's romance, broken heart, stuff like that. There's death in a family, and there's relocation. Like we studied this. Like these are three of the top most stressful things in your life. And I was like, great, I just went through one. Let's add another one.
Yeah, right.
So luckily I had some education to fall back on. But I wish I would have found mentorship circles back then. I think it's important it sounds like it really helped you.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And to tie the bow around all this, and for whoever's listening, it's you're going to read a lot. If you read a lot about burnout out there, like my aim is just to help people save time and stuff and get to the deeper piece. A lot of it is, yes, like get support, surround yourself, like don't take the lone wolf approach. And I think that just goes, I think that's across the board, just good advice for any human being, right?
I would agree.
Yeah. Some of it is actually like, learn when to unplug, like get off the screen minutes before bed, which is important. Like if you're truly in front of a screen minutes before you go to sleep, it's really bad for you. Yeah.
You're overstimulating your synaptic pathways and everything. You're supposed to be bringing everything down. That's why I'm a huge supporter of blue blocker glasses. And
I finally bought some. I was like,
about time, man. I have 3 different brands sitting here. What do you got? Did you get the Swannies? Did you get the?
I don't remember actually.
I had both founders on. I had this James Swanick from Swannies, and then I had the founder Travis from I Love. I Love is great. He's on Amazon. These guys are all on there. Nice. And actually, the Swannies guy just got done doing I think it's a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo for a whole new launch of a whole new lens. So it's cool. But blue blockers. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's like the hacks, right? There's the hacks. The bigger journey and the bigger skill set, I think, to either recover, because you're either having to recover or you're trying to prevent. Those are kind of the two strategies for this whole mess, right?
Okay.
And the bigger game is all the intangible skills under emotional intelligence. When I say that, it's really the awareness that we talked about, which I think we've covered literally a lot on awareness in this episode. Like becoming
you definitely nailed that. I think that's important too, right? That's being aware.
And the other piece is the emotional attunement and regulation. So meaning like being connected to your emotions, like actually being able to feel, like you have to have that. If you don't have that, you got to get into your body. You got to go to yoga. You got to breathe. There's all the stuff you got to be able to, we experience 500 emotions in a day, and that's feedback. And if you're not connected to that, that's the disembodied, that's the danger zone. Cause then you're just operating in your head, and that's hijacked experience pretty much. And
interesting. Hijack experience. I like that.
Yeah. Like if you can't feel one of the 500 emotions going all day, that's a problem.
Yeah, like you are so tuned out. Again, like to your point, you're so hijacked.
You're outputting. You're just up here.
That's crazy.
Top side of your body. So the regulating, meaning, and a lot of people, why do they become disembodied? Well, if they have a let's call it an imbalanced relationship to fight or flight responses, which can be triggers that we have. It can be actual danger experiences. Sure. Mostly it's our like relationships with people. It gets triggered, it gets weird. And so we don't like that experience. We kind of close up and then we don't go there. So we shut it off. And being able to be with the emotions and regulate them in a healthy way so it doesn't impact your responses and your reactivity, like that's emotional regulation. That's emotional agility. That's a
big
long-term
struggle.
play.
I
That's
mean,
a long-term play.
People need to be working with you and other people like that to help get them to that point. Yeah. I think phase one is usually like back to the awareness piece. Like, okay, one is, are you even aware you're even doing this? And then number two, it's like getting into, okay, what are some of the, I don't want to call them hacks or tricks of the trade, but the processes to start moving from awareness into, okay, now you're aware. These are the next steps you take to address it.
Yeah. And like, for the listeners on here, like the short, instant, quick hits, right, are the, curb your caffeine, like blue blockers, right? Turn off your phones and your exposure to light an hour before sleep. There's that shit.
So I'm summing up this as like overstimulation, right?
A ton of it is overstimulation.
We are all overly stimulated.
Oh, well,
and don't get me wrong. I love my coffee, dude. I love coffee.
I love my coffee too.
I love a good shot of an espresso too. I think, but one of the oldest lessons I learned was, and I still try and follow that to this day, and everybody's got different sleep cycles and work schedules. Hopefully the whole third shift life cycle, people working third shift overnight, we are not nocturnal mammals. It's not a natural thing. It's actually very bad. That's why nursing, doctors, more stress levels, right? Working all night long. It's terrible. Because then like you're in dark environments with unnatural lighting, and then you're sleeping during the day when you're supposed to be getting the natural lighting exposure. It's just it's a bad cycle.
That's a nightmare. Nightmare.
Then add in everything else we've discussed today.
Like,
oh man, not good. Not good.
Yeah, we really nailed it. I think just really to be clear, like we covered a lot.
Oh, I got something to share with you. Have you ever heard? And maybe I share this on this podcast. I mean, at some point with somebody, maybe not you, but there's a bunch of different books out there called The Quarter Life Crisis. But this is the one that I found years ago. It was published back, well, at least on here, it says it was back in 2001, Quarter Life Crisis, The Unique Challenges of Life in Your 20s. So when I was going through hell, this is one of the first books that I decided to say, I'm going to go to like Barnes and Noble or whatever. This is pre-Amazon, guys. The younger generation listening to this, sorry, Amazon didn't always exist, but I'm sharing Amazon with you today. And I've added this book to my influencer page, so you'll be able to get this from the show notes. But this was a great book, and I'll scroll down real quick because one of the taglines he puts in here is Quarter Life Crisis. It's about insightful advice on smoothly navigating the challenging transition from childhood to adulthood, from school to the world beyond. The author includes some of his own personal struggles and stories, and it really helped me relate. And I thought it was weird because I told friends of mine back then that I was doing that, and they're like, "Dude, you're only in your 20s. Quarter Life Crisis. Man up." And it's like, well, to your point, Travis, I mean, let's fast forward that to today. This is relating to the early 2000s. It's now 2018. The millennials are being pushed and driven harder than they've ever been. And this is one of our most potential generations yet. I don't know how a better way to put it, but yeah, you and everybody else, it's like, guys, like, dude, we can create a lot of change. And I think the millennial generation, I think, is taking it more personally than anybody else. And I think that's adding to this overdriven burnout factor. It's like they're accountable. They want to create change. They want to create purpose. And and it's becoming self-defeating.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about the individual responsibility or experience, but if you're millennials in the one thing that I think the dirty secret, if you will, that can give tremendous power back to the individual and the millennial. Let's call it millennial, whatever. It's really anybody, but the millennials think they have something to prove and they got to keep their mouths shut and they got to say yes to everything and all that stuff. The reality is that human capital crisis for organizations is huge. keeping talent and retaining people is
Mhm.
a huge, huge challenge. You talk about any of the major tech companies, they're all on the list of losing billions and billions each year on not being able to keep
Dude.
productivity high. So the reality is there are a lot of organizations, Google's taking a lot of steps for well-being and all that stuff. But the reality is that you can ask for more than you think
Oh yeah.
as it relates to your balancing out how much you're working, the environment in which you're working in, all that stuff.
If you can prove that you can be productive and work from home, companies are open to it more now than ever.
Right.
It is a different lifestyle. The very first time I ever tried that, I struggled. I kept doing like making coffee and doing laundry instead of like working. That was a long time ago. You learn, you put in the reps. It's funny you bring that up though. And again, we're trying to keep these episodes shorter, ladies and gentlemen, nowadays, because we're coming up on 30 here now. So I want to respect Travis's time. But I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly everything we discussed here today. My story that went in conjunction with yours.
Yeah.
I was a coach with T-Mobile. It's a telecommunications, tech company. Still around to this day. They were very forward thinking. But we still worked hard, overworked ourselves. It was a call center type environment. I was managing 20, 30 people, coaching, developing them, trying to career path them. Then I left that, moved into an analytical role. I was a business analyst. But during the coaching time, we started an entire department. Its job was to save customers because it's cheaper to save a customer than acquire a new one, right? Well, we took the same philosophy and then realized we had to apply it to hiring and retaining our talent because we provided paid new hire training from day one with full benefits for 7 weeks. So the company's paying for full benefits, full training. You're just sitting in a classroom for 7 weeks before you do anything to actually help the company generate money. That's a big investment. They were spending millions on personnel, but the attrition rate, the employee attrition rate was 8 to 9%. At one point, I think it reached 11%. So across the entire organization, across 11 plus call centers, coaches, unique coaches like myself and a few other people, we teamed up and created a special, attrition team to address this with human resources and find ways to create more value in the employee. Because we got it down to about 4% while I was there. And because it was costing the company millions.
Right.
Because people didn't feel valued. They didn't feel like they had a path in the organization.
Right.
They felt they were just like a robot answering phone calls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's down and dirty, that kind of work too.
Trust me, call center world.
Yeah.
I don't miss it. You want to talk about the epitome of cubicle life? There you go.
Wow.
I spent, and that was my second call center company. So I spent 15 years in that industry. It was very life changing.
I no, it's amazing what you're sharing because the parallels are deep, man. It's happening across industry. Like I came from media sales side, like the seller side of the media world.
Yeah.
The worst side is actually the buyer side, the agency world. These kids are working 70 hours a week, making a third of what the seller side's making. And, I help high achieving men really take this burnout concept into more balance and into mastery, if you call it that. But it's like, they might be sellers, but I mean, there's these industries and there's certain roles like you mentioned, right? Like the call center lifestyle. Like, wow, I can't even imagine.
Well, and that was inbound call center, not outbound. That was inbound. Like I'm not even talking about the outbound selling format. Now, granted, the retention division we launched, their job was literally to resell the customer, but that was inbound. So you're taking somebody who customer service can't help, and they transferred it to my team. So you've already got most of the time an upset customer, and then my team got them. So it was I never worked in outbound. Oh my God, because that's a whole different level. So, but hey, it got me my start in the professional world. I worked my way up from literally a guy with a headset and microphone. That was my, I worked, farm kid, went to call center world in the late 90s. This is when .coms was launching. I'm aging myself right now. And then eventually ended up at a company like T-Mobile, before T-Mobile even existed. Like T-Mobile's around the world, but I worked in that profession before T-Mobile even existed. It was a brand in Europe. So it was crazy. So it's
You're so old, man. You're so old.
I know I'm 40, right? Yeah. And to sum this up, though, I am still guilty of burning myself out. Like, I joked around real quick. I know we're going long in this episode now. We're at 34 minutes. All right, we got to shut this down. We're trying to go for shorter episodes. But anyway, did the triathlon, very first triathlon on Saturday. I put it out there on a Facebook Live video. A lot of people don't know this about me. I have a deep-seated fear of water. I never grew up around it. I've done water sports, kayaking. I've done wakeboarding behind a boat, but you have a life vest on and stuff. I've never done open water swimming. So for the past 6+ weeks, I've been at an aquatic center getting coaching and training and trying to learn how to swim.
Yeah, you're an animal.
Well, the anxiety was not defeated in the past 6 weeks. This is a lifelong anxiety, stress of, like, when I'm in the water, like there's a fear factor there. So it's going to take me longer to overcome this. The reason why I'm saying that is because I did not succeed on Saturday in the swim. I swam further than I ever have in the open water.
Yeah.
But I made it to that. It took me 15 minutes just to get to the first buoy. And they only give you 40 minutes to complete a 400-meter swim. I was doing the sprint distance. Meanwhile, my fiance and 2 other friends are already out of the water. They did the Olympic distance, and they're already on their big bike ride. I'm just trying to survive my swim. So long story short, I'll be going back to my coach. I need to spend a lot more time because I was thinking that I could just crush years of a mental game that I've never spent time working on. And it's going to be one of the biggest challenges I've ever done. I joked around on the video. I'm like, dude, I have skydived and mountain bike raced, done 100, 200-mile road biking events. I've fought wildfires in the Western U.S., dude. I will stand in front of a wall of fire versus trying to go swimming in open water.
You're doing it, man. You're doing it. You're facing the demons.
But to your point, back to awareness, dude, trying to survive that swim, I didn't realize the accumulated exhaustion that just came from that, right? Because I was, after that, as soon as they got me back to the beach, they pulled me, out of safety. They said, we got to pull you. You're never going to finish this in time. Yeah. We have to pull you. So they pulled me onto a boat, took me back to shore. And I'm like, as soon as I get to that shore, man, I'm going to go crush that bike. I'm going to go crush that run. And I did. I just ripped the lid off and destroyed those sections of the race. I wasn't going to stop. I mean, granted, it didn't count as a completed triathlon. But the next day, and then literally yesterday, last night, which is, I'm recording this on a Monday. So yesterday was the next day. Mm-hmm. Man, last night when I went to sleep, Saturday night wasn't fully recharged. And then Sunday night, last night was just like, I crashed out. I didn't realize how much mental and physical exhaustion I had from that experience. So. Sure.
Oh, mentally and emotionally, all that stuff. Yeah, it's a little bit more than physical. Obviously, there's fear and there's stress with it. Yeah,
it wasn't pretty.
Well, congrats, man. Hey,
as I'm wearing my my CrossFit
still a
Murph
winner
shirt
in my book. So
I appreciate that. Thank you. But I love sharing this stuff. The depression, awesome. the me failing my first triathlon. It's like I've succeeded in so many areas of my life. I hold myself to this higher standard.
Yeah,
and this is everything you and I are discussing today. It's like I beat myself up, but then at the same point, I'm like, Scott, you're trying to overcome a lifelong fear.
Yeah, right.
You may not succeed the first time.
Right. Yeah, totally.
But I hold myself so hard. I'm my own worst self-critic. So these are the guys you work with, right? Like hard charging sales professionals, business professionals, whatever, and women, mind you, women too.
Yeah, totally.
Isn't just
especially
men.
In this day and age, you've got so many women who now in big leadership roles, and they're CEOs and they're presidents, and they're what I've read. I know we're going to close this up, and maybe we do another episode on something. This is just this topic impacts.
This will be your August episode. So there's so much to take out of this.
Well, because I connected with a wonderful coach, a wonderful woman who she helps the other side of the equation, high achieving women, like the really, really super overachieving women, because she had same journey. She was appointed CEO of a hospital at the age of 26.
What?
Where it was, you've proven yourself, you're the achiever, right? But then there's that, like, here's so much responsibility, like, go make it happen. And then it's crash and burn, it's 70-hour weeks and it's all of that. And the double layer of pressure that women face is still, it's beyond even proving yourself as the role, and it's the gender social norm part as well, trying to prove yourself.
Oh yeah.
So there's additional friction and additional resistance that women will face in this whole game of burnout. And so trying to prove something, I put myself in their shoes sometimes, and it's like, wow, that's, as men, we've had privilege to even be like, yeah, I prove myself because I have the opportunity to be here and all that. And
you see, this goes back to this has been coming up a lot in the past few shows of other co-hosts is there is totally an imbalance right now of masculine and feminine energy. You have women forcing themselves into the masculine persona and then losing their natural power, which is their femininity, which is their strength, but they're afraid to exert it.
So they burn out quicker because of that. So the tie-in,
and then too, reversing it.
Well, so the tie-in with all of this is the feminine energy in regards to like a human being able to receive nourishment or recover and reset. So the man that shuts him off from his body, like we already talked about, we're tying this back.
Oh yeah.
Men will gravitate to more masculine, one direction accomplishment. It's consistent, and they're not able to open themselves to receive and nourish and reset. Yeah. Same on women's side, where they go so one direction, masculine oriented, and they cut themselves off from their feminine, like being able to receive and nurtured. And you just have disembalanced humans across the board.
And that's another bit. We could totally. Maybe the next episode will be like burnout, or the battle between masculine and feminine energy tied back to burnout or something. I don't know.
Well, we can absolutely, because I talk to enough women coaches that coach that side, and I'm an expert in the burnout and just the spectrum of it and the workforce challenges. We can talk about like the differences of overachieving men and women and like their relationship to burnout, so your audience can.
I think that's a great segue for the next episode, because this episode we kind of talked about the build up to that, right? The young adolescent coming in, right?
The individual experience, the millennial experience with it.
And then it's like, okay, once you're in that state or that position of power, that position of strength, or the assumed position of strength and success. Okay, now what's happening? Where's the burnout? Why is the burnout at that level? I love that. That's gonna be a great segue. Well, listen, let's respect the time and try and keep this short format. We did go a hair long, but this happens. So how would you like to close out the show today? What is and maybe this is a segue for the next show, but what was your final words for this?
I think we covered it, man. Stay tuned. This is
an important topic.
It's very, very important. And it's a deep exploration into the nuances of having the life that you want with fulfillment. Like, it doesn't have to be a struggle. And the way to do that is to get super educated on the hacks and stuff. Yes, but your own awareness and just just these signs along the way that most of us will encounter.
Oh yeah.
If we're producing something in the world. So it's just an exploration.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable.
It's stay open to this conversation because it's really important. Yeah.
Oh, this is awesome. Listen, hang tight. I'm going to give you a proper goodbye off the air. Ladies and gentlemen, we hit hard today on burnout awareness. And Travis actually already gave us some kind of closing out words here. It's like, guys, it's inevitable. We're all going to be at some level a different kind of hard charger, especially if you're creating positive change in the world, in the companies you're with, the organizations you're with. I think the biggest takeaway from me today is reminding myself of all the awareness that I have gained and that I'm still yet to gain from this as well. So again, thanks for tuning into another powerful Live the Fuel podcast show with Travis Roznos of The Drop. Okay, so make sure you check him out at travisroznos.com. He's on every single month. He's definitely hitting hard on that healthy lifestyle balance. And we're definitely going to get him back on here again. And we'll have a follow-up show digging deeper into this burnout piece for September. So again, ladies and gentlemen, remember, you too can live the fuel. Talk to you guys again soon.